The final trailer for Tears of the Kingdom was an absolute blockbuster, and I'm still digesting all the information that we got yesterday. However, one thing that immediately jumped out, and that was the return of the champions. Although this time it's not the champions that we knew from Breath of the Wild, but their descendants, and it looks like they're going to be fighting alongside Link in some capacity. Today I want to dive into the details of the champions, check out who they are, why they appear to be holding the tears, plus what this could mean for gameplay and story in the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Well, before we get into it today, let me know in the comments what you think about these new champions, and also how do you want it to work with them fighting alongside us. Well, have you recovered yet? Yesterday's final trailer for Tears of the Kingdom was not only one of the best trailers I've seen for a Legend of Zelda game, but hands down, one of the best trailers I think I've seen of all time. It has roughly 3 minutes packed full of dense information related to gameplay, character, story, Ganondorf, Princess Zelda, and we had confirmation that we'll be fighting alongside the descendants of champions. Well, the lineup in Tears of the Kingdom is looking very strong, so in Breath of the Wild you could easily miss the story if you didn't go and collect all the memories, but in Tears of the Kingdom it looks like Nintendo are going to go a little bigger with the narrative portion of the game. So we've got Ganondorf, finally confirmed after years, literal years of speculation. We've got Princess Zelda, she isn't dead, she's simply lost somewhere, or maybe not where, but when. But that is a topic for another day. Then we got Sidon, Tulin, Riju, and they are potentially the new champions for each of the races in Hyrule, the Rito, Gerudo, and Zora. One thing that did stick out from the trailer was the lack of a Goron champion, although we did see a sneaky peek of the Goron weapon when the champions were running together, so it's likely Nintendo are still keeping one or two reveals up their sleeve for the main game. The big difference in Tears of the Kingdom are these new champions appear to be fighting alongside Link, rather than just characters in cutscenes like we got in Breath of the Wild. So at one point in the trailer, we see Link flying in a Rito costume with Tulin, and then later we see Link fighting alongside Sidon, and this doesn't look like a cutscene. This looks like it's in the main game, which opens the door for very exciting gameplay in Tears of the Kingdom. We also got a peek at Riju wearing the Thunder Helm, and she appears to have grown up a lot since Breath of the Wild, and that is a really good point. It demonstrates that Tears of the Kingdom is set a few years after the end of Breath of the Wild. I think when we first saw that trailer in 2019, we thought that Link and Zelda exploring under Hyrule Castle, maybe that was an adventure after the end of Breath of the Wild, but now that we see the champions' descendants, this dates Tears of the Kingdom at least a few years after the end of Breath of the Wild, so some considerable time has passed. Well, we didn't get a glimpse at Yunobo, Breath of the Wild's Goron champion, who is notable with his absence. We did get to see a Goron standing on a hill with Link and a bunch of Hylians, and shout out to that dude with a bucket on his head, getting ready to fight Ganondorf. But I don't think this was Yunobo standing in that group. Our Rito champion, Teba, wasn't there either, and she appears to have been replaced by Tulin. Perhaps something happened to Teba, and maybe we'll find out more details in the early stages of Tears of the Kingdom. Well, the footage of Link fighting alongside Sidon got me the most excited, and this has huge implications for the gameplay, so rather than just interact with other characters and cutscenes, in Tears of the Kingdom we could be about to fight with companion characters. Will they be restricted to fight with us for a boss fight, or just certain parts of the game? Or will we be able to build up our party of characters and switch between them? The champions played a huge role in Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity, and looks like they're going to play a big role in Tears of the Kingdom. Well, let's have a quick reminder about the champions in Breath of the Wild, and also the first time we saw their descendants. So the champions in Breath of the Wild were from the 5 races across Hyrule, so Goron, Zora, Rito, Gerudo, and finally Hylian. That was Link, of course. Princess Zelda led them in the fight against Calamity Ganon, backed up by the champion hero chosen by the sword that seals away the darkness. The other champions were pilots of their divine beasts and provided Link and Zelda backup in the battle against Calamity Ganon to seal this beast away forever. Daruk was our Goron champion, but he was killed in the fight against Fireblight Ganon. The Gorons added a stone memorial to their champion in Goron City, And then we were introduced to Yonobo in Breath of the Wild, Daruk's descendant, although I don't think we saw him in the trailer for Tears of the Kingdom. So we're going to have to wait and see if it's Yonobo that we're going to be working with, or perhaps maybe it's another Goron champion. Revali was our champion of the Rito, but he was killed by Windblight Ganon in Breath of the Wild. And Teba is the descendant of Revali and featured heavily in Age of Calamity, but so far we haven't seen Teba either. We do see another Rito called Tulin, and Tulin does feature in Breath of the Wild. He hangs out with Teba near the flight range. We don't really know what happened to Teba, but early indications are that Tulin is the main Rito we're going to be fighting alongside in Tears of the Kingdom. Well, Urbosa was our fearsome champion of the Gerudo in Breath of the Wild, but was killed by Blight Ganon. And Riju is the daughter of Urbosa and is likely to be as fearsome as her mother. Riju looks to be wielding the legendary Thunder Helm, allowing the Gerudo champion to control thunder and lightning. So Riju was seen in the trailer, and she is going to be a valuable asset to fight alongside. Finally, Mipha was our Zora champion, and she was killed in the battle against Waterblight Ganon. And Sidon is Mipha's brother, and looks to be the new king of the Zora, given he can be seen wearing a crown in the trailer. Sidon looks pretty useful with that trident based on the gameplay with Link, so he's going to be a great ally in the battle against Ganondorf. Well, let's go back to that final trailer for Tears of the Kingdom. So an interesting point in the trailer are the champions appear to be wearing or using the Tears of the Kingdom. We see a shot of Sidon, and he doesn't appear to have the tear, but then later he does have the tear, and they all seem to be wearing it on their wrist. One theory is that we've got dungeons related to each race or champion, and we work with them to complete the dungeons and collect the tear. Princess Zelda also has a tear, and we can see this other character who could be Zonai, or perhaps even Hylia herself. She is also wearing a tear around her neck. Ganondorf also has a tear in the middle of his head in the trailer. Quite tricky to see this one on first inspection, but he also has a tear. Whether he was given it or whether he stole it, hopefully going to find that out in the upcoming Legend of Zelda game. It's highly likely these tears are very powerful and perhaps passed down through generations, so this could be related to sages returning in the game, as we saw another interesting character earlier in the trailer who kind of looked like a combination between a goat or a rabbit or something like that. It definitely wasn't a Hylian. Behind him, to the left, you can just about see a Rito character. You can see the talons on the floor and the bow. On the right there, you can see a Gerudo character. You can tell by the weapon in the hilt. So perhaps these are ancient champions from the first Calamity, or maybe they're ancient sages. There's been speculation for some time that time travel will be involved in Tears of the Kingdom, and I would love to fight with the modern day champions of the present, and then head back to the past somehow and meet the first champions in the time of the Zonai. Well, this is all very exciting stuff. One thing this trailer confirmed was that Tears of the Kingdom is going to go very hard on story. We've got Link, we've got Zelda, we've got Ganondorf in the same game for the first time in 17 years, since Twilight Princess. And we've got the champions' descendants as well, the Zonai, some mystery characters in there as well. And in terms of impacting the story, we're going to get to know these new champions very well. Now, I think we're likely to be fighting alongside them in dungeons associated with their regions of Hyrule, help them to recover their Tears of the Kingdom, and bring them all together to bring the fight back to Ganondorf. Zelda also lost. Where is she? Or maybe even, when is she? So that is a huge question. Is she stuck in the sky somewhere? Or maybe she's stuck in the past. I can't wait to find out. Well, in regards to the gameplay, we're going to be battling alongside champions, with them taking a more active role rather than just cutscenes or advice. I really hope we can build up a party or even rotate between characters. So if we're going to assist the champions in returning their tears to the rightful owner, I hope we start out as Link, but then take control of the champions themselves. That would be very, very cool. Multiplayer is a bit of a dream, and also a very unlikely one, but again, that would be a whole load of fun. Well, let me know in the comments what you think about the returning champions, and that is it for this look at the champions in Tears of the Kingdom, and as always, thank you so much for watching or listening. For more Legend of Zelda content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to Triforce Times. Or you can check me out on Twitter at Triforce Times, Well, if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, you can check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.